Please give a warm Traverse City welcome to the co-directors of tonight's film, Kei Pritsker and Michael Workman. Well, I'll ask you a couple questions. I'm going to turn it right over to the audience because we have a very active group of citizens in Traverse City who are constantly working on issues of peace and the Middle East, and so I know a lot of them are probably here tonight. We have between the two shows, we've had over 250, 270 people here today to watch your film. So it was really amazing, and thank you for letting us show it. And maybe just give us a little background in terms of how this film came about, why the two of you, and how you got involved in it, and how's it doing? Either one.
Yeah, so this film, it came out of, I guess, a journalistic endeavor. It sort of happened, I don't want to say by accident, but we weren't setting out to make a film at first. I'm a journalist, first and foremost, for Breakthrough News, and I had been reporting on some of the protests happening at Colombia, the Palestine protests. And you saw maybe in the film in that first scene or in one of the first scenes where the students are protesting the banning of two pro-Palestine groups. That was actually footage from one of my first news reports from Colombia. So I'd been going there and sort of I was in touch with the students. I met some of them that night. And yeah, they told me in April that they were escalating their divestment campaign at Columbia because the university wasn't taking them seriously, wasn't listening to their demands. So they wanted to set up this encampment to basically make a more public, sort of visual intervention. And I showed up to the encampment with my camera on the first day, and you see in the film there was that scare the first night about a police raid coming and the encampment being crushed, but obviously that came the next morning, and that was those arrests of the students on that first lawn were the images that really sparked the global encampment movement. So at that point, I had stayed there that night, saw the arrests happen the next morning, and then when the arrests happened, I knew I had to sort of stay. So I stayed there in the camp for the next 12 days. And even after that, I was always planning on making sort of like a news report about the encampments and what really happened there. But we have some friends over at Watermelon Pictures, and we just, thought on a whim, maybe let's show it to them, let's show them the footage, see what they think about it. And they really wanted us to do more with it and pushed us to turn it into a film. And one of my colleagues and our mutual friend, Matt Belen, who's the lead producer on this film, knows Michael, and Michael's been organizing around Palestine for years. So, and Michael's a filmmaker. Unlike myself, I have no filmmaking background. So,
Hmm.
yeah, we asked Michael if he wanted to come on the project. And yeah, pretty shortly after all the filming was finished at Columbia, we started the process of making a film.
Wow. Well, and Michael, go ahead. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer the second part of that question kind of about how the film is doing right now. We've had I feel like when we started out, we really didn't even know if we could make a feature documentary. And so we were just trying to get something out really as soon as we possibly could. And I would say about like 3 or 4 months into the process of editing and the final stretches of production when we are getting all of our interviews and all of the other materials, archival materials and whatnot. I think at that point we thought that this could have some legs, but we didn't really know what that would look like, if it would mostly be like in activist spaces or if it'd be something that we could get out to a broader audience. So luckily, I feel like we've had a much bigger release than we had anticipated, at least theatrically. We've screened in like over 140 different theaters,
Wow.
US and Canada, within basically less than 2 months. And there's
Great.
just been huge positive reception. Um, And yeah, we're releasing in the UK and Ireland next week, which we're really excited about. And this is in spite of like a lot of suppression of the film too, or intimidation. There's been
Yeah,
big
explain that. I've read a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's been big email campaigns where people will, kind of like fire off the thousand emails or lots of emails in bulk to different theaters to intimidate them, calling this film terrorist sympathizing or anti-Semitic, and that the theater shouldn't be screening it. There's been, students who have been arrested trying to screen the film on the lawn of UCLA the year after. There was violence on that same lawn, which you saw in
Mm,
the
right.
film. There was a person right before we started our Angelica run in Manhattan. So that was like our first New York City opening of the film. A week before, there was somebody who came into the lobby and was yelling about the film and then spray painted like a yellow ribbon on the wall and then was escorted out. So there's been a lot of intimidation, there's been a lot of also, we had a week ago, our IMDb page got about 1,000 reviews from Israel that were 1 out of 10 stars. The film is not available in Israel, so you
I,
definitely usually, you're supposed to watch a film before you review it, but
yeah.
they just read the synopsis.
I've
So
had I've had like 30 years of that, of them clogging up the different review sites and just dumping, the not the Israelis, but people in this country who wish that I would just go back to Traverse City and stay there. So,
yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I know this feeling. Well, that's great. And so other than the fact that both of you are now confirmed and approved anti-Semites, that uh, any other awards that you've received?
Yeah, I mean, we did like a pretty unconventional release with this film. We only premiered at one film festival and we were planning on doing a whole festival run, but because when Mahmoud was abducted, it really changed our calculation of when we needed to get this film out, and we decided that we needed to get it out as soon as possible to kind of combat the right-wing narratives that were being
Yeah,
used against the students at that time. Um, so we ended up just doing one festival premiere at Copenhagen Docs, and we won the special mention at least for their Human Rights Award category, which I think is really big for a film about Palestine. You know,
yeah,
I mean, to
yeah,
be able to even screen at all of these theaters and to even win an award like for a film that has the politics that our film does, I think that shows like growth in the industry and a openness to these stories that we haven't seen before. And then we were also able to break like a little like box office record on our opening weekend, at least for our like average per screen metric, which is like insider theater metric. Um,
yeah.
beat Free Solo for opening weekend. Um,
Wow, it's really impressive, and congratulations on that. Um,
thanks.
The so Kei, uh actually you're no relation to the governor from Illinois, right? I assume. Yeah. Okay. And Chuck Workman is not your father, right? The great documentary filmmaker.
No, but I know Chuck and Jeremy. Or more Jeremy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
We may have some distant relationship. Like 10 years ago at a film festival, we kind of tracked some Philadelphia family, but I don't think we're related. But
Right.
both of our Workman family comes from Philly, so.
Um, what can people who are in the theater tonight, what can we do to get the word out to people around the country of how they can see this film, where they can see it? What can we do to sort of be foot soldiers for your PR army so that more Americans see this? There have been so many lies told, and myself and my team, we were very involved last spring, various encampments. We were basically live streaming it on my website and on my Substack, and because I wanted people to see the truth. Um, I'm a member of Jewish Voice for Peace, and they were very much involved. Mahmoud and the Arab American students there were I mean they are the nicest and kindest people, and they made clear every day that our Jewish brothers and sisters are here with us. They're risking their heads being cracked open on behalf of us. And you show this, in the film that there's huge Jewish support in New York City amongst Jewish students, and that part of it just isn't being told because it goes against the narrative that they want to put out there. And I'm sorry that you've had to go through all the machinations of the attacks, but that should only tell you that you made a powerful film. They saw it. They know that they don't want Americans to see it. They don't want to know the truth about what's really going on. And as somebody at my age, and I can speak for just the few other elders who are in the room tonight, um, that we are really grateful to your generation, to those of your generation, those younger than you, to those older than you, um, who have stood and fought this fight to stop the massacre, to stop the ethnic cleansing, to all of this stuff, because, and these are kids that we raised. So we're really happy to see that we at least contributed something to the planet. Um, so thank you for that, and thanks to all the other young people. But to answer my question, what can we do to everybody in this theater has friends, relatives all across the country. If they go home tonight, if they put up something on Facebook or Instagram or on what I still call Twitter, what is it that we can do to be part of the encampments, if you'll let us do that?
Yeah, I can take this one, Kay. I feel like, at this phase, I think one of the best things people can do is share the film with their friends. Like, if they're on social media, to share it on social media, to email people personally about it who they think may be interested. But then also, you hope that people go out there and when the film is available for rent online, which it will be, relatively soon, to find people in their circle that they think would really benefit from seeing this film and watch it with them. Like invite them over to your house,
Oh yeah,
sit down, watch it with them, and have a really patient discussion about it afterwards. Because I feel like, if all of your most personal connections, the people we can move the most, and I feel like taking on that grassroots level, if we multiply that by thousands, we have, are starting to have impact that we want. So
yes,
that's one of the ways people can do it. They can also go on like the different review platforms and give us like a positive review if they like the film to fight off some of that, counter review campaign that we've gotten. And yeah, I think, there's also the ability to book the film on Watermelon Pictures, which is our distribution company. Um,
oh,
they have a screening request form that people can fill out. So if you're part of a community organization, a church, anything like that, and you want to book a screening in like a local theater or a community space, we can do that. And those are
wow,
sliding scale too. So we can
that's
meet
great.
the need. So I think those ways of really like using your personal network to bring people in to show this film, especially for people who you feel like may have a hard time with the subject matter. Because
Right.
we want to, I think for us, the goal with this film was to do two things. One was to like re-energize people who are already involved in the movement for Palestine to see what gains we have made and the power that we have collectively to keep moving forward. And then to the second kind of goal was to bring in more people into this and to right those like wrongs, the fallacious lies about the student movement, to challenge those.
So do you guys have a streamer yet or not? Um, where people can watch this at home.
All of the big streamers, flat out said no to us based on the politics. That's another kind of level of the suppression. There's obviously like a huge audience for this, but a lot of them didn't want to none of them really want to take the risk on it. Um, for now, it's available. Watermelon Pictures is doing like a streaming service called Watermelon Plus. It will be available on that. And then it will be available widely for renting on demand on the internet. Since we
Mm,
can't get into any of those big streamers. So that's another reason why it's really helpful if people in the theater can really share it with other people because we won't get into the algorithms of the Netflix and Netflix's and Hulu's of
right.
the internet to just get it put in front of people naturally. We have to will that into existence.
Another film about Gaza this year, From Ground Zero, was also having similar problems and everything. And they asked me if I would be an executive producer and they could use my name publicly to get some help. And so I said yes, and I did that for them. And they've done well too. It's and Watermelon Pictures again is has been wonderful to work with. Okay, so why don't we open it up to the audience? And just who's got the microphones there? I can sort of see the audience there.
So,
Just raise your hand. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question earlier come up in the lobby. Can you tell us about a situation that surprised you with the reactions? Obviously, a lot of it has been negative and there's campaigns to try to suppress, but has there been any stories that you could share that you were surprised by?
Like in other words, really? They're doing this against us, really? Anything like that? Just the sort of. I mean, I know some of it, but please share it with the audience.
And so, like in a negative or positive way?
Either one. Either
Either
one.
one, of course. Yes, of
I
course.
mean, one was we were very excited right before the film premiered in Copenhagen. We got a Fox News article written about it. But then the Fox News article just turned out to be an actual piece of journalism that described what the film was, when it was screening, and where you could get tickets. So that was a surprising one because they didn't actually even attack us. They just promoted the film.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I'm sure Kay has like,
The gummies we've been sending them have worked.
yes, exactly. I think for me personally, showing it to the Columbia students on the opening weekend was kind of like the most
Mhm.
emotional moment.
Yeah.
Um, since I didn't spend as like time on the encampment like Kay did, I mostly met people afterwards, interviewing them and whatnot. It was really incredible to start seeing all of those faces and connect with them, and then to see their reaction afterwards because many of them were rightly suspicious of like a documentary team, as they should be, being savvy. Um, and yeah, but afterwards they, were all like deeply moved by the film. And one of them said to us that it was like the only good thing that's happened to them in the past 6 months was seeing this film, and just really
Mm.
reinvigorated them. And they said that they went and like, got beers and like hung out afterwards for like 4 hours, just like talking about organizing and what to do next. So I think that was really amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
The so I'll say a few words about how Colombia immediately seemed to cave to Trump. Um, and use, I mean, we were up there. We saw them letting the police in. We saw the beatings. We filmed it. I mean, we sent it out live because we wanted people to see this. Um, and it was pretty horrific. And it was really bad on the UCLA campus. But these weren't the only campuses. And for a while, we were very proud of our governor who refused to send in the state police to the on the campuses of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Michigan State in East Lansing, until it reached a point where even those campuses shut down the encampments, tore down the tents, and whatever. So explain Harvard and how they did a 180, it seems, from what Columbia did, and stood up every day. It seems like Trump has a new announcement now about Harvard. Uh, Today it was, we're just removing all money from Harvard, not just the research stuff. But he already announced he's doing that, and now no foreign students can be at Harvard. I mean, and he's being sued by all the appropriate groups, and every judge has taken the side of the students on this stuff. But he is not going to let up on Harvard, and in part, I think it's because Columbia caved. I mean, didn't we learn this in like fifth grade that if you cave to the bully is not going to become your friend. The bully is going to hurt you more. And I've been really so I've been wearing this hat in appreciation of them doing the right thing. But your comments or your feelings about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you're saying, Harvard seems to have like taken a much different lesson from everything that happened during the encampments, and I think it also reflects how badly this whole deportation campaign against pro-Palestine, pro-peace, anti-genocide students has been. Because I mean, really, like the abduction, the arrest of Mahmoud. I don't think really helped the Trump administration's case. In fact, I think for a lot of people, it really activated and sort of showed people exactly what this administration was sort of intent on doing more broadly with universities. And I think, the fact that they went after someone who is not just a permanent resident, but they didn't even seem to know that the ICE agents coming in, seemed to think that he was on a student visa or something. Um, I think it goes to show how the Trump administration sort of overplayed their hand, one. And two, yeah, I think Harvard's actions sort of show that, the administration is not invincible. And like you're saying, Michael, if you're faced with a bully, you don't cave and try to be the bully's friend. You have to, show that you're willing to push back and resist. And yeah, Columbia obviously took the opposite approach because, and I think this is, reflective of a larger issue. This is not just a film about Columbia, but I think it's also a film about how money controls higher education. Obviously we don't have publicly funded higher education in the US. I mean, we have state schools, but some of the best schools are rely on these billionaire donors and these huge donors, and obviously their interests also end up becoming, the primary interest of the school. So I think it's also a lesson about the complications or the problems of having some of your most dear and cherished institutions be privately funded, be, run essentially by a donor class. And you could say the same thing about Congress. You could say the same thing about the media. All these very important institutions are controlled by powerful, interests and powerful people. So I think that is also, I think that was the fact that Columbia can be swayed so easily by money. I mean,
Yeah.
this really should be the case. Like, no institution of education should be swayed by finding this, crude financial calculus.
Do you think, as Trump keeps saying, and Anti-Defamation League and others, that there's been this huge rise in anti-Semitism? Because I have to say, living here on the west side of Manhattan, I'm just a few blocks south of Columbia, and it's the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. Close to 1 million New Yorkers are Jewish, and while I mean, my feeling about this is that, well, there's always been anti-Semitism. That's nothing new, and it's always been horrific. And in the last century, we saw the ultimate horror of it. And I've said to this audience when we had the other Palestinian film here that on October 7th, a couple years ago, woke up that morning, my radio alarm clock set to the NPR news, and there it was that they're saying that there are 1,200, essentially at that point, that when they didn't really know the exact numbers, but there were 1,200 dead Jews in the streets of Israel. Nobody wants to wake up to that news. Nobody wants to hear something horrific like that. Certainly not those of us who were born just a few years after World War II. And but but to see that, I mean, as again, I'm in Jewish Voice for Peace. I'm not Jewish, but they let others in, and so it's they will tell you how upset they are about their relatives who died in the Holocaust being used as a shield to go in and harm, in the case of Columbia or in UCLA, these other colleges, harm these students to support this war. This is our war. There's no getting it. We fund it, and we arm it, and it is on us. And I gotta post this really incredible poll that has been taken, and because people really wanted to find out, why did Democrats stay home on November 5th? Why did so many millions who voted for Biden and Harris 4 years ago not come out and vote? Or if they voted, they left the top line blank. They wouldn't vote for Trump and they wouldn't vote for Harris. And the number one reason people gave, it was Gaza. Why they could not go and vote for this party that had essentially funded and supported Netanyahu and went over and hugged him and kept funding him and kept arming him. And the blood is on our hands too. And I know, I mean, people my age are very, just like our parents were. Now you were supposed to vote. Um, but everybody I know opposes anti-Semitism, has spent their life fighting the bigots, the neo-Nazis. I just hate seeing this happen, and I feel bad for any student, especially the Arab and Muslim students who have been so generous and so loving. I've seen it in person to those, and I'm being told we do have a couple questions. Last question for me: what is the status right now? What can you bring us up to date on Mahmoud in the Louisiana detention facility, and how Noor, his wife and the mother of their child, is doing right now?
Yeah, I can take that. Yeah, Mahmoud is still being held in ICE detention center in Jena, Louisiana. He had a hearing last week on the 22nd, which the results of which seem like this case could go on for quite some time, unfortunately. Um, it was, I really implore people to read his letters, a lot of them from prison, a lot of them are released on The Guardian. But they also released, I think I read an NPR article, some people may have read it, about that last hearing. Basically, Noor and Dean, who is his 2-week-old son, um, were in the courtroom with them. So it is like this powerful story of that's one of the, it's not the first time, but it's one of the first times that he's able to see his son in that setting, which is so deeply heartbreaking, but also, you know, Mahmoud is such a strong, steadfast person who's so deeply patient and kind. And also is somebody who has gone through so much to get to this point to even, be at Columbia. That was a huge journey for him. And there's so much in that story that we wish we could have included into the film. Because really it's not just about his family being ethnically cleansed from Palestine in 1948. He grew up in a Syrian or Palestinian refugee camp in Syria with only Palestinian papers, which didn't allow him to cross any borders. And so he had to get into Lebanon to get his education, and he would get in trouble with the authorities then. And then, ultimately was able to claim Algerian citizenship through a relation through his mom. And that allowed him to travel legally. And so, not, he's very familiar with, state repression. He's familiar with these things, and it's unfortunate. But I think he understands his role in the movement right now too, and that he's been using this as a time to also, recenter Palestine and Gaza, but also to, ring the alarm bells for other Americans that they may be coming for, international students that are standing up for Palestine now, but this is just the testing ground. And if we
Right,
let them do this, they're going to come for other people next, and ultimately they'll come for you. So
right.
this is the time to stand up, and I think he knows the importance of this historical moment and the role that he's playing in it. And I think, personally, still, it's very hard for him. It's very hard for Noor to be away, to not have, you know, Mahmoud around, and for Dean, their son, to not have their father around. It's heartbreaking. And it's just disgusting. It's evil, honestly.
Right. It is evil. Absolutely. Okay, Angie, who do we have with our question here?
Hi, Michael and Kay, thank you so much for making such a wonderful and powerful film. Michael, I really appreciated what you said earlier about having patient conversations with people in your life, maybe sharing this film with them. And I'm curious if either of y'all have examples of those kinds of conversations that you've had, maybe working on this film with people in your life who see this differently or have been misinformed. And just like, I don't know how those have gone and if you have any advice for having those kinds of conversations.
Kate, do you want to take that or Michael?
I can take one, but I'm sure Kay has a good example too. Um, yeah, I mean, one of my close friends, who grew up in a very Zionist family. Um, we used to do political organizing together back in Missoula, Montana, where I grew up. And we used to not touch Palestine because we just weren't on the same page about it. And they came to we did a secret screening at the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival in Missoula, before we did our world premiere, and they came out to that. And afterwards, we had this incredible discussion, and it wasn't just the film that moved her. I think it was, all of the events following October 7th and seeing, what Israel has done in Gaza really opened her eyes. But then, the film, I think, like really took like the next level with that. And it just opened a door to talk about all of the things that we hadn't before. And I think, you know, for each person, I feel like it's important not to attack them or make them feel like they're a bad person for the beliefs that they have or whatever. Um, but to just be able to, yeah, I don't know, be patient and listen to them. And then I think we see this film in like a big library of films and books and articles, that could be used to kind of, once you like hear where somebody's hang ups are, to be able to recommend them something else. If it's not this film, maybe it's, Gaza Fights for Freedom, maybe it's From Ground Zero, maybe it's No Other Land that we can recommend to them. And I think that, each stage, like we can't expect people to just like change overnight. But if we're like patient with them and we lay the seeds, I think we can start challenging kind of the propaganda that people have been completely um, embedded in their whole lives.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful about that. I do think most people have a good heart. They have a conscience. They know right from wrong, and to have respectful conversations with each other can go a long way. Who's got the next question?
Yeah, hi. Uh, One of the things Thank you. That you brought up in this movie here slightly, and Michael Moore has always been, is our freedom of speech. We always talk about this, and I've noticed this. I'm older than Michael. Uh, Over the years, my lifetime, I'm watching more and more censorship, and it's kind of done quietly. I mean, a lot of it is just they simply do not report things and things like that. But even simple things like when you're showing scenes of uh, people, okay, you blur out the faces. I don't know if that's done by you or if that's done by some sort of rules you have to apply to. Um, but one of the things that I think is being lost by what we're doing here is real images of what this war and these other things are about. I mean, it's been 80 years since the Holocaust and the 6 million Jews that were killed and things like that. But you see those pictures of all those bodies stacked up and people, and they're not blurred, okay? Then under Vietnam War, the little girl who had the uh,
It was
napalm burning up
napalm.
her body,
Yeah.
okay? And that was originally they didn't want to show all that because she was naked, okay? But it means a lot more. It takes, if we could only have, and I don't want to see them, but I mean, it might have more effect if we could see bodies that are being blown apart by these bombs. We see the buildings, we see all that tragedy, but maybe some people would start saying, wait a minute, these are the bombs that we're making money on dropping over there and things like that. I mean, just a thought, we're being censored. All that stuff that should be out there is being censored because, well, we don't want to, hurt our war profits or something. I don't know. So,
Michael and Kay, is it true that the networks, the American networks, the BBC, whatever, they're still not allowed into Gaza to do any filming of what we do see? You think that's the TV cameras are there. Are they there yet? They weren't last time I checked. Yeah.
No, there were many attempts to organize like international delegations of journalists and stuff, but part of the problem is Egypt's cooperation with Israel, because theoretically that's how journalists would enter the Gaza Strip is through the Egyptian border, and there was a journalist convoy that was organized a few months ago, but for those of you that know your like Arab world politics, Egypt is the second largest recipient of U.S. foreign aid and sort of has been helping Israel enforce the blockade of Gaza. So the Egyptian government didn't want that to happen. They didn't want the scenes from Gaza to be shown to the international media, and obviously Israel has done an incredible job of just massacring any journalists that are reporting on what's happening in Gaza, Palestinian journalists. Israel, the last thing they want is for international journalists to be taken in because obviously, just the deep racism against Palestinians, against Arabs, against Muslims. We're trained to not trust when Palestinian journalists say these things, which, to the question about bodies or the comments about showing bodies and gruesome footage. I mean, this has been, it has been shown by Palestinian journalists, but you're right, it doesn't go reported because it's seen as like bias because it's coming from someone who is on the receiving end of the killing, is as if that makes any sense. But so this has been a terrible, terrible 19 months for journalism, a terrible, terrible 19 months for truth in media. And anyone that, knows the Palestinian issue, has been organizing around this, has known about it for some time, knows the media has been awful, towards Palestinians, towards the Palestinian cause for decades. So, yes, I mean, yeah, there haven't been foreign journalists allowed into Gaza in any significant way, and that needs to happen. Journalists have been requesting international bodies, governments to be allowed in. There was also a humanitarian aid convoy that tried to deliver aid to Gaza when Israel started enforcing its policy of starvation, which has now temporarily ended, but went on for almost 80 days. And Israel actually launched drones at that ship. I'm sure people remember Greta Thunberg was involved in organizing that aid convoy, and Israel shot up the ship. Like this is beyond. This is a threat to all of our collective humanity. What's happening?
Yes, so true. Next question. Yes, we have another person.
Okay, to take it from collective humanity down to the individual level, have either of you been threatened personally or experienced, safety or threats against your own selves?
I've definitely received a lot of hate mail, death threats. People call my parents' house because when you like search my name, it comes up with my parents' phone number. But I mean, this has been like a consistent pattern for anyone really who has spoken out in any significant way, especially women. Like the things that are said towards women who speak out in favor of Palestine are really just horrifying and disgusting, incredibly violent. And I think uh that reflects the hatred and violence of the genocide that's being committed in Gaza right now. I mean, you see these videos come out on a daily basis from Israeli society of these hard right wingers, chanting death to Arabs, saying that Israel should starve Gaza, that there are no innocent people there, politicians saying this. And it is, it's a society that was based on the idea that that Israel has to be a Jewish majority state, that it can't be a state for everyone, that it has to be based on an artificial majority of Jews in what was once, an Arab country region. So of course you're going to get racism when you have this, uh, you know, goal of creating a sort of state where one people have more rights than another. So um, I'm not really, I don't think anyone has really been shocked by the vitriol, by, the racism, the sexism coming from the opposing side. But, I'll say at the same time, like, uh, we're not afraid. These are sort of the risks I think all of us have signed up to take in speaking out against this. Mahmoud, said in the film that he was asked, "What will happen if you're deported?" And he said, "I'll live. Palestine will live." Like, I think anyone who's been involved in this movement knew that they were taking on personal risks, that they were risking being smeared as an anti-Semite or as, violent or hateful or this and the other. But we didn't do this because we thought people would be throwing flowers and, whatever at us. We did this knowing we could incur personal risk, but we're doing it anyway, again, because this is a threat to our collective humanity and it's a necessity for this planet to survive.
We have time, I think, for one more question. Angie?
Hi. So my college had an encampment and I participated in it a little bit. But how I experienced most of the encampment movement, for lack of a better word, was through social media. And so my question relates to specifically for the Columbia encampment. What was the social media presence like, right? Because social media can be great in that you remove a lot of traditional obstacles to reporting, such as having to satisfy, donors' agendas. But at the same time, it's pretty notoriously a hotbed of misinformation. So I'm just curious, what was kind of the environment on social media in regards to the encampments at Columbia?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll say the students were highly organized and strategic in the way they presented towards, the media and towards the world. They had designated spokespeople, and they also had offered media training to people in the encampment that wanted to speak to the press. They were sort of trained on, uh, how to talk about the encampment, the sort of language to use, the things that they wanted to highlight, these sorts of things, which was really important because like Michael said earlier, there were so many people coming around the encampment with cameras. You don't know who they are. You don't know what their agenda is, their motive is. There were so many egregious examples of like, Fox News, other, mainstream news outlets coming in with a clear like agenda. They clearly wanted to just get some soundbite of a student saying something, that could be vaguely twisted as being like, oh, you know, this, that, or the other, anti-Semitic, all these things. They were also trying to present the students as like uneducated and childish, and they don't know what they're talking about, which was the complete opposite of the truth. I mean, these students were so organized, and they had the smarts to actually choose people like Mahmoud and Sueda were some of the main spokespeople who they had the most confidence in, sort of relaying the sentiment of the entire encampment. And there were these democratic meetings every night where the students would gather and they would give feedback. Mahmoud and Sueda would talk about the negotiations, what happened that day. They would get feedback from the students, from everyone occupying the encampment. So it was a very sophisticated operation, and they were very careful to choose all their words carefully, to word all their statements carefully, precisely because they knew they were in a hostile media environment.
Wow. It's um I'm really proud of you guys. I will do what I can do to make sure more people see this film. Um, let's all of us, encourage others if they get to see it in the town they live in, or when it gets on a streamer. I'll let everybody know that here so they can tell everybody. And and to just try to speak truth to power and speak against the lies. I on this whole thing of you guys, you being accused of being anti-Semitic. I don't know what your background is. I don't know if you're Jewish or not, but you that's got to seem really bizarre to that. And I live in a country that's just a little over 2% Jewish. And this is how anti-Semitic the entire country is. For the last 30, 40 years of my life as an American, uh, depending what year it is, 9, 10, or 11% of the US Senate is Jewish. The state of Michigan, we are represented now by a Jewish woman in the United States Senate. And you look at the other states that where they have sent Jews to Congress and to the Senate, the senator from Georgia, a big Jewish state, Georgia, uh, Nevada, Minnesota, Wisconsin over the years. Carl Levin from Michigan before Senator Slotkin. Uh, the American people have been very, very clear about um, they don't like anti-Semitism. They oppose it. They're not that way themselves. They would rather a Jewish politician represent them than another Georgian or Michigander. And it speaks well of how, and I will just hold on to this, that I know most people are good at heart, are not bigots. Your generation uh, are not bigots. You have bigots, but man, you fix so much of this. You don't give a crap about who loves whoever. You want to be with that person. All that stuff that our generation was raised with, that we started and had to sort of stop this hatred, that you've carried it on, and the ones younger than you are carrying it on. It gives me a lot of hope. So I want to just personally thank you for this. Are you guys just finally what are you doing next? What can we look forward to? Please don't stop making films.
I've got a few things in work, and yeah, will be reporting through Breakthrough News too, which and hopefully we can work on more films together. I know yeah, it's a traumatizing experience to understand how films are made, so I hope that didn't scare you too much. But yeah, definitely follow Breakthrough News on YouTube. I think they just hit 1 million subscribers. And
Wow, congratulations.
yeah, just really good movement media that really challenges a lot of the American imperialist agenda. And yeah, I don't know, Kay. Do you want to plug anything from BT too?
Uh, I mean, there are a few projects in the works that I don't think I can talk about yet, but yeah, definitely, Fall Breakthrough News, we're reporting every day. But yeah, I mean, you can trust that whatever Michael and I do next, we will constantly be in service of the truth. We will be, fighting for Palestine, for a ceasefire, for an end to this bloodshed. And yeah, hopefully everyone tonight feels, moved to do in, whatever field you're in, whatever creative outlets you use to just do the same. And yeah, we hope to see a lot more films like this one.
Great. Well, that's good news. Thank you so much. Thank you to our local peace group, Mideast Just Peace. Thank you for everything you've done over the years and continue to do. We will continue to bring voices from that part of the world. And the top prize at Cannes 2 days ago was won by a filmmaker that we have brought in absentia to the Traverse City Film Festival. He won the top prize, the Palme d'Or. Iranian filmmaker, was under house arrest for many years. And I and other filmmakers worked hard and long to convince the Iranians to let him go. And he was let go, and he made this incredible film. And of course, we'll be bringing it to Traverse City as soon as we can. So thank you everybody in Traverse City for that. Come next week for our film Secret Mall Apartment, and and we'll see you at Community Night on Wednesdays. Thank you, Angie, all the volunteers, Rebecca Shankula, Angie Vargos, and everybody else who helps us put this on. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Kei.
Thanks, everybody.